Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Deepverge Plc AGM for 2021. Throughout this presentation, attendees will be in listen-only mode. Questions are encouraged and can be submitted any time via the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Simply click Q&A, type in your question, and press send. The company may not be in a position to answer every question received during the meeting itself. However, the company will review all questions submitted today and publish responses where it's appropriate to do so. We also received a number of pre-submitted questions from attendees, which have been responded to. These will all be available via your Investor Meet Company dashboard, and we're notifying you once everything's ready for your review. I'd also like to remind you that this presentation is being recorded. I'd now like to hand you over to Ross Andrews, Chairman of Deepverge Plc. Good morning.
Good morning, thank you very much. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome you to today's annual general meeting. I am Ross Andrews, your chairman, and I will be chairing the meeting today. So thank you everybody for attending, those in person, my colleagues on the screen, and also everybody that's dialed in through the Investor Meet the Company facility. The notice of annual general meeting was issued on the 30th of June, and due notice the meeting has accordingly be given to the company's members. The quorum of the meeting is 2 members present, and I can confirm that we have a quorum, and so therefore I'm able to open the meeting formally. This morning, resolutions will be decided on a show of hands unless a poll is demanded in accordance with the Articles of Association. If we do have a poll, I will talk through the shareholders and those that are in attendance on how that will actually work. Before turning to the resolutions, I'd like to refer to an announcement that was released to the market at 7 o'clock this morning. It's quite a long announcement, so therefore I don't propose to read it out word for word, but it is an update on the Skin Trust Club, on the Microtox PB wastewater project, and also on our MOU with China Resources. So if shareholders haven't seen that announcement, it was released this morning at 7 o'clock, and I draw everybody's attention to that. I would now like to start the sort of formal proceedings, and the first resolution is to receive and adopt the company's report and accounts for the financial year ended the 31st of December 2020. Are there any questions? No? Okay, I now propose resolution 1, the text of which has been set out in the notice convening the meeting as an ordinary resolution. All those in favour raise their hands. All those against? I can tell you that I hold 33,898,628 proxy votes in favour, 473,846 at my discretion, and 9,700 against. I therefore declare that the resolution has been passed. The second resolution refers to the reappointment of Jeffrey Henry LLP as auditor of the company to hold office from the conclusion of this annual general meeting until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting, for which the accounts are laid. Any questions? I now propose resolution 2, the text of which has been set out in the notice convening the meeting. All those in favour, please raise their hands. All those against? I can confirm that I hold 33,906,417 proxy votes in favour, 473,846 at my discretion, and 1,611 voted against. I therefore declare that that resolution has been passed. Third resolution relates to the directors being authorised to determine the remuneration of Jeffrey Henry. Are there any questions? I now propose resolution 3, the text of which has been set out in the notice convening the meeting. All those in favour? All those against? And again, I hold 33,898,906 proxy votes in favour, 473,846 at my discretion, and 11,044 voted against. I therefore declare that the resolution has been passed. Resolutions to re-elect directors. Resolutions 4 and 5 concern the re-election of Nigel Burton and Camillus Glover, both of whom are retiring in accordance with the Articles of Association. The board is recommending that each of the directors be re-elected as a director. We will hold the resolutions separately. Before we do so, are there any questions? No. I now propose Resolution 4 for the re-election of Nigel Burton as a director of the company. All those in favour? Any against? I hold 33,894,492 proxy votes in favour, 473,846 at my discretion, and 13,611 against. And therefore, please confirm that the resolution has been passed. I now propose Resolution 5, which is for the re-election of Camillus. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? I hold 33,849,283 proxy votes in favour, 473,846 at my discretion, and 13,820 against. Therefore, I'm pleased to confirm that the resolution has been passed. Resolution to authorise the allotment of shares. This is Resolution 6 in the notice of meeting. This is to do with the general authority to allot shares. Any questions? All those in favour? All those against? I hold 33,669,777 proxy votes in favour, 473,846 at my discretion, and 76,693 voted against, and therefore pleased to confirm that that resolution has also been passed. The final resolution will give the directors authority to allot equity securities for cash without first offering them to existing shareholders in proportion to their existing holding of shares. This authority should be limited to the allotment of equity securities in connection with a rights issue, or otherwise in connection up to 15% of the nominal value of the company's issued share capital as at the 30th of June. This authority will expire at the end of the next annual general meeting. Are there any questions? No questions. All those in favour? Any against? I hold 33,576,037 proxy votes in favour, 473,846 at my discretion, and 161,722 votes against. I declare that the resolution has been passed. So that concludes the very formal proceedings of the meeting. I'd now like to hand over to my colleagues as there is a Deepverge presentation.
Thank you very much, Ross. Good afternoon, everybody. We're actually at past 12, it's just that the day has actually flown. I'd like to welcome you all to the annual general meeting presentation side. All the formal elements of our AGM are actually now complete. And this is just to bring everybody up to speed on what has actually been happening. I think over the last few months, things over the last 3 years have just transformed the company completely. But this basically just gives everybody an understanding of where we are and the likely timeline of actually how things are actually going to pan out. So just the background on the company, we're very much geared towards artificial intelligence, and it relates to two specific areas, and that is the environmental health side of our business, which actually has Modern Water and the Eco Water OS consortia. And we'll talk a little bit about the actual outline of that, at least in the operational side. Finn will actually come on in the next few slides and actually explain that. And the health and beauty side of our business relates specifically to the actual 14 years of technology and institutional knowledge acquired within LabSkin, and how that has actually evolved very much towards the consumer side, and also an enhancement of the LabSkin from the Skin Trust Club. And again, Finn will actually fill you in on some of that. But at the core, at the backbone of this company now is very much technology. And on the next slide, I'll just give you an idea as to how that actually is broken down. Rhino Cloud is very much the center of our business. It actually takes all of the data in and out of the company, analyzes it, and actually enhances the value both on the environmental side and on the health and beauty side. In the following slide, it's easier to actually grasp here because you see that Lab Skin operates very much on the skin microbiome, understanding and taking the data of fungus, bacteria, and the likes of acne that we actually have. Although there's over 3,000 different skin conditions, these are very specific areas that we have major domain expertise in. And on the back of that, it has allowed us to move from a B2B to a consumer side of the business, for which Skin Trust Club was actually launched no more than 8 weeks ago. And on the bottom of your screen, you'll actually see the environmental health side of the business, where data is actually extracted from Microtox. The technology itself is 34 years old, but what has never been exploited before it became part of the Deepverge group is the data that has actually been accumulated over that period of time, specifically in relation to the 2,700 or so pathogens, that is parasites, toxins, virus, and bacteria that exist in water, both in drinking water, wastewater, recycled water, recoverable, etc. And part of the work that we've been doing over the last year, although it actually seems like weeks for the amount of efforts that have actually gone in, people working days, weekends, etc., to actually bring this forward because of the COVID pandemic that actually is around. This actually goes back basically, and Finn will talk about this, 2015, when we actually established this piece of technology to instantly provide alerts to dangerous pathogens in water. So again, from the whole point here, I'm making that although there are two sides of a physical business, the reality is that both sides of them, we're in control of the data going in, we're in control of the analysis of the data once it's actually entered into our system, and then we're in absolute control of the actual trends and identification of the alerts necessary for whether it actually to give you the results of the skin test to help you to actually improve the condition of your skin, or from the environmental health side, the output of that is to alert public health agencies and even private institutional corporations that there are dangers within the actual water, either in or going out from the actual factories. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually hand it over to Finn, who's going to give you the operational side of the business and what has actually been done. I'll just pass that over.
Thanks, Jerry. Okay, I have control, yeah?
Yeah.
It's also good to point out that the data backbone, the data infrastructure for Skin Trust Club is 80% of the data infrastructure for Microtox PD, which I'll be talking about a little bit later on. Just to amplify Jerry's point, there's so many synergies between the business that it is strange to see it as a consumer product in one sense, and it's also supporting the backbone for an engineering-based B2B product. So Skin Trust is ready for a major launch in September, October. All the work is in place. All the systems have been tested. We have, over the last 8 or 9 weeks, been getting amazing feedback from customers, real-life customers, and we've been iterating their suggestions. We've been getting feedback from partners who are also see the benefit of using this product. The technology is in place. The systems are in place. The equipment is all working. It's all after being tested at an industrial level. And just as importantly now, we've put in place some fantastic people who understand building international brands. We've just taken on a chief marketing officer who understands how to build an international brand. We're on the cusp of announcing a major international tier 1 advertising creative partner again, who understands how to build an international brand. We've got great brand specialists in place, merchandisers in place. What we will be doing over the coming months is launching a brand that has to work for push-pull dynamics as a B2C, but also as a B2B, because consumers will be able to buy this product direct, but they will also be able to buy it through our partners, whether they're pharmacies, dermatologists, beauticians, or indeed if there are current skin health partners that we have developed relationships with through LabSkin. I'm going to talk very quickly around the wastewater, the Microtox PD product. We have multiple live sites where our optifluidic technology that we started developing in 2015 retrofitted into the modern water equipment is detecting COVID in wastewater in real time. We're doing it on average of every 15 minutes. The technology that we have deployed, paradoxically, we've been actually developing that since 2015. We weren't chasing COVID in 2015, obviously, but we were going after very small bad actors that were causing problems in fluids. Mastitis in milk, malaria in blood, E. coli in water. We have learned so much, and we're after making so much progress there that when the COVID outbreak hit, then we knew we were on the cusp of a breakthrough technology that could detect COVID in real time. And that product is now deployed and it's working. The next big challenge for us, which is completely and utterly being put in place at the moment, is we have to build an infrastructure to bring that solution to a worldwide market in the middle of a raging pandemic where there's absolute need. So not only are we testing in anger the product in real life sites where we're detecting COVID, we're also putting in place tier 1 partnerships, companies that can help us with scaling our technology. We're putting in place tier 1 partnerships with companies that can help us mass produce our technology. And that is really what's going on at the moment. It's being implemented. It's all about getting more and more and more instruments into the marketplace to meet demand, which is obviously out there in the middle of a raging pandemic. It is the next 12 months are laid out in detail. We know exactly day to day what we have to do. We know who's doing what. We have our partners in place, and we are compelled to get as many instruments out per month as we can possibly get there through mass production, through using routes to market that are already in place with the modern water distributors. We're in 60 countries. We've got hundreds of local partners. We're talking at government level with our current sites. So the whole idea is that structure is in place. Now let's feed it with mass-produced instruments, and that's what is actually planned for the next 12 months. The whole point of what we're trying to do is take a product that is a breakthrough technology with a lot of luck, because we were doing this since 2015. We took optifluidics. We took an established kiosk for modern water. We've retrofitted them. We've put them on site. We've proved that they're working. Now what we're doing is take that retrofit and manufacture something that's elegant, that works as a mass-producible solution. The other thing that we're doing, which is a proven technology as well, is while we've been concentrating on COVID on one chip, we know E. coli, we know other pathogens from our backgrounds, we understand the multiplexing of chips. So we are actually, as part of the next product iteration, we will have a chip that is capable of detecting more than just COVID. The AI works with the multi-detection. The chips are proven. So really what we're doing is that part of the optofluidics is going to be more about just COVID. It's going to be about pandemic response. And I think I've covered that one as well. And I've covered there. Over to you, Camillus.
Okay, thank you, Finn. Just then the historical financial information, which you would have all seen in the annual report, which was published at the end of last month. And basically, you can see there's been massive growth within the company, and part of that has been obviously fueled by the development of the extended lab skin AI business, and then also the acquisition of Modern Water. So that turnover of 4.483 million, 25% of that is Modern Water's contribution post-acquisition. And in the annual reports, note 5 and note 50, note 33 will take you through all the detail in relation to Modern Water. Overall, admin costs increased by 1.59 million, and the admin costs excluding exceptional items, amortization and depreciation, you can see there were 2.7 million as against 1.6 million the previous year. And that's driven by the additional Modern Water overhead and the expansion of LabSkin of both the testing facilities and the number of people. In fact, you can see their staff has increased from 16 in 2019 to 43 in 2020. And currently it's at 57 and rising. EBITDA has fallen, and we had our last quarter of 2020 was our first EBITDA positive quarter, and that's expected to follow through all the way in the current year. When the very last line there, full aggregate turnover, that's when you take each of the acquisitions in there for a full year and not from the date of acquisition. And you can see combining the full Modern Water turnover, that would give us 6.6 million turnover for the year. The balance sheet then, you know, the increase in the value of the net assets, or depending how you look at the balance sheet, total equity or net current assets, mainly has been driven by the acquisitions, the Modern Water acquisition of 13.3 million. And Rhinocloud the previous year of 3 million. The impact in current assets and current liabilities are somewhat to do with the acquisition of Modern Water. And again, note 33 in the accounts business combinations. It'll show you the value of both the assets and the liabilities that we acquired, paper assets and, you know, not obviously the goodwill or the intangible asset value of the acquisition. Mezzanine finance come in for the first year, first time, but our funding this year means we won't need any external funding. And then the strange item in the balance sheet is the non-controlling interest, which is just purely due to the timing of when we acquired 100% of Modern Water, and that was in January. So that value of non-controlling interest will be added to equity value next year. And then within the year, shares issued was 12.1 million, which is the 94% of Modern Water, and then warrants that were exercised overall. So when you actually just look at, you know, the equity value in the balance sheet, and you then compare it to the share price and the market cap, you can see how all three are connected, or the growth is visible. Where the market cap at the end of 2020 was 67 million, and the equity from the balance sheet you've just seen is just touching 16 million, and the share price was at 31p. So that growth has been reflected both in balance sheet value and market cap value, and therefore shareholder value. Yeah, and Gerard, I'll hand over to you to do what's coming up.
The final bit. I just want to briefly go through each of the elements in case some people have actually thought that we'd overlooked some of the things that we didn't bring up in detail. And it's simply because they're an ongoing part of our business and ongoing part of the divisions within those businesses. So as Finn said, our capacity is now in the end of Q3 going to be 20,000 home test kits per month, and the Android app being available and expected early in 2022 to actually be in the US and later in 2022 in China, because again, LabSkin have been working on skin ethnicity, which actually covers some of the actual skin pigmentation of different ethnic skins. So that allows us actually enter into the Chinese market, and we expect to be hitting 5 of the cities in China through existing channels that we already have over there. The expansion side of our business in China is actually quite substantial, expected to be quite substantial in the wastewater for obvious reasons, and covering the wastewater microtox PD installation orders and installations, again, in multiple jurisdictions this year. So while we have in the RNS references to undisclosed clients in undisclosed locations, they're already in locations, they're already operational, they're already transmitting data back to central public health agencies in jurisdictions. So that part of our business is actually now coming to a head. And if you go back and have a look at some of the actual numbers inside of this, our expectation of actually having capacity of manufacturing microtox units in the middle of 2022 is 200 per month. So the demand we expect in 2022 will increase, obviously, when we do formally let the world know about where these installations are and the clients that are currently working with those, the data on those. On the breath test, I've said multiple times on social media, the technology within microtox PD is precisely the same detection mechanism. So any advances that we have in the microtox PD wastewater detection, the optofluidic side of our business, of those pieces of equipment, is precisely the same for the breath test. And the breath test, simply because it is a medical device, simply because it is a personal medical device, there is a lot more involved than actually having wastewater detecting clusters of the disease within a certain specific area, because you're not testing an individual. Because with an individual, you're giving them a positive, a green light or a red light of go, no go. And that's within the cruise industry, getting on and off at ports is very, very important. It's not necessarily just an issue with the cruise lines themselves, who are actually, eager for a solution. The issue relates to jurisdictions where people are embarking and disembarking from boats and going and using that. So there are political elements involved in actually having a solution for the specific industry. But there are ongoing discussions within that for breath test, and we will have more information as that comes out. But nevertheless, as we improve the multiplex side of the microtox PD, so too does the ability to actually detect multiple pathogens on the chip in the breath test. So it's not like we haven't actually and do not continue to evolve. We evolve at exactly the same pace, just as a matter of process of clinical trial elements and political sides to actually closing the business on the breath test. On China resources, we have extended the scope of this business quite substantially, and as a result of that, that has extended the amount of legal and commercial discussions and negotiations that are ongoing there. It's of serious importance when you actually consider that China resources turnover is twice the size of Rio Tinto. Rio Tinto being one of the largest resource companies in the world. With China resources, there's 166 monitoring manufacturing equipment suppliers into China. China resources, being the top corporation, is specifically the best partner for us to actually be working with. it takes simply a little bit of time to conclude elements of negotiation. And that's where we currently are, which is why we've actually said it is a little delayed, but nevertheless, it's very important for them, and it's very important for us to conclude as quickly as possible, because it's part of their 5-year plan, 21 to 25, by the Chinese state government to invest a little over 18.5 billion pounds into wastewater in China to upgrade that system that's already there. It currently only actually manages 20% of the rural side of wastewater in China. And China is known to actually have a substantial amount of drought area. So therefore, even the management and recycling side of this business is actually quite substantial. So again, it's a matter of when we actually close this deal, and we're currently actually working towards that. As far as LabSkin is concerned, this continues to grow and expand even further out, simply because it actually includes and supplies and supports Skin Trust Club. Because as Finn alluded to, there's the B2B business side of this with LabSkin, obviously with our major large corporation skin care manufacturers, but equally you actually have smaller B2B type of businesses, beauticians, dermatologists, and front-facing drugstore kits that actually can be supplied through that specific channel. We still maintain and control the brand itself, but it gives people a front-facing element to contribute. So a beautician who would actually have a client take a home test kit, process through our system, gets the report back to the beautician to assist the actual client in enhancing the actual quality of the skincare that they actually have. Not everybody has the ability to manage or wants to manage their skin. They're quite happy to have their skin managed through their beautician. And dermatologists, exactly the same, treating with skin conditions. We are not a medical device, but in the hands of a clinician such as a dermatologist, this tool gives them a much better report to deal with the conditions that some of the actual people who actually can use this kit. And likewise, our major skincare clinical trials have been extended such that this is so wonderful for them that they actually have a before and after opportunity where the actual client consumer where the actual manufacturer has an ingredient or a product that can be tested before on the client, the human subject, on the actual lab skin itself in parallel, and also afterwards. So therefore, there's a scientifically tested mechanism to prove the skin microbiome has been balanced or is improving, or the ingredient is better than this or that other ingredient. So again, we're just seeing more and more scope for expanding, and that's why we've actually gone up to the 20,000 in the UK alone. We'll hit the 20,000 in the US through a partner who already supplies us with material that is currently supplied into the actual Skin Trust home test kit. And in China, again, that is rolling out in late 2022. And the expansion of our laboratories in the UK, the expansion of our laboratories in the US, because we already have the Modern Water laboratories over there, will be in collaboration with the suppliers of our Skin Trust Club materials in the US. And of course, we announced recently the Fermoy in County Cork, the investment that's actually going in there, and the number of personnel that actually is increasing, where we will manage the AI side of our business. Scope for that is actually extended. And again, not unusual, but Ireland is actually quite a large hub for data centers with Microsoft, from Google, from Amazon. They all have data centers over there. And it makes perfect sense for us to have our AI extended team, where our current AI team are actually quite successful. And then finally, as Finn said, the multi-chip trials. Again, the wonderful part about this is, as we have previously discussed on working with Dr. Stereos Mokas with the PBH Hale, the PM B Hale breathalyzer, as part and parcel of extending out to up to 40 different biomarkers on the breath test. This actually gives us the opportunity to have this more in a GP clinic as the digital health revolution is extended, as you can see with what's happening with the NHS. The demand for the inpatient system is actually overloaded. The demand for ER is overloaded. So therefore, having the digital capability in a GP's clinic or in a specialist's clinic, rather than have to go to the ER, this is actually the next generation of the medical device contribution to digital health. That's pretty much sums up where we're at. There's a lot happening. There continues to be a lot happening. And as Camilla's actually just showed you, I don't think we've even started. When we actually looked back at that growth of the last 3 years, we're literally only at the beginning of what the possibilities are for Deepverge, and we're all very excited, completely passionate about what we're doing, and hopefully, having you all along with us and supporting is a great support for us to keeps us going, keeps us getting up at 6 and getting to bed at 2, or at least me anyway. So, okay, so I'll leave it back to Paul.
Can I clarify one thing, Jerry?
Yeah.
The Skin Trust will be available on all Android and iOS platforms at the end of this month.
Wow. Okay.
So the Android version is ready to roll as well.
That's the end of
August.
This week.
End of August.
End of August. Okay.
Yeah.
We haven't hit the end of July yet, but I get it. Okay. End of August, this is great. Yeah, that's fine. Okay. You heard it first here.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much indeed to Ross, Jerry, Finn and Camillus for the presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, do please continue to submit your questions using the Q&A tab situated on the right-hand corner of your screen. Just while the team take a few moments to review those investor questions submitted already, I'd like to remind you the recording of the presentation, along with a copy of the slides and the published Q&A, can be accessed via your investor dashboard on the Investor Meet Company platform. I'd also like to remind you that your feedback is important to the company, and immediately after the presentation has ended, you'll be redirected for the opportunity to provide feedback in order that the company can better understand your views and expectations. Camillus, perhaps if I could just hand over to you. Obviously, we had a number of questions submitted during the event itself, and we can just pick up on some of those, if I may.
Yeah. Finn, Richard M has asked an interesting question, and it comes up a lot with people's understanding of the Skin Trust Club in relation to benefits and claims, whereas actually the Skin Trust Club is something quite different. You might just explain?
Okay, so basically the Skin Trust Club is a skin health tracking app which allows the consumer to get a personalized report, a personalized map of their skin. It then gives them information in which to make informed decisions about the right types or the wrong types of products that they're to put on their skin as part of their skincare routines. That's it in a nutshell. Okay. Now what we're doing is we're offering, because LabSkin has been testing products for 14 years. So if you have a situation where we give a customer a personalized report on the breakdown of their skin, right, based on science, based on sequencing, okay? And we've got this portfolio of products that we've been testing for the last 14 years from some of the biggest companies in the world. So we know that those products are skin microbiome friendly. We know that they're ethical, that they haven't been tested on animals because they've been tested on our skin. So we're making part of the offering direct to the consumer. Look, this is the type of skin you have, and these are the types of products that you should be using for your morning and your evening routines. We're not recommending the product as such. We're saying these are the types of products that would be good for your particular type of skin. We're also then, because we have such interest from B2B, our existing customers, new distribution channels, we're also making a version available which is a personalized report to the consumer, but because the technology will track where the purchase was made, we'll know that, say, that it was bought in a beautician's chain that we would deal with. So we'll be telling this person, look, here's a report in your skin. It's also going directly to your beautician. Now go and talk to them, and she or that beautician will come up with a personalized skincare routine for you. So what the whole idea is that it allows the consumer to make informed decisions about all the claims that are being made by a very big industry that, it's very, the industry, beauty and the skincare industry makes a lot of claims about products and about ingredients, and it does this for your skin. And again, we're just giving the consumer the power to at least to make an informed decision about those claims and what's good for their skin.
Okay, Finn, thanks for that. Gerard, the question in relation to obviously breath tests as a solution to entrance to mass events, but going further than that, integrating the technology behind the breath solution and the wastewater into building air conditioning systems to detect COVID. You're just on mute there, Gerard.
Okay. So, yeah, you've got a situation where with HVAC, which heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, you have an air recycling system, which is done through a filtering mechanism inside of most buildings, where it actually is. And again, specifically in large office buildings, each floor has actually got, floor above and below is generally managed through a central circulating system, filtered. Now, if you're looking to actually have a situation where you're detecting the air, that more realistically is more beneficial if you actually look at the air changes in the room. So it will be more appropriate for you to actually have, for instance, a CO2 detection sensor that would actually detect that the number of air changes in the room is not very, very high, and therefore the potential for building up of SARS-CoV-2 virus or any variant within that virus is likely to actually increase the risk, and therefore it should trigger a mechanism to say open a window or put a fan on. It would not be worth our while to actually go down the route of detecting a virus within the HVAC system of any building, simply because there's plenty of solutions there, and we cannot take out the virus. That is not our aim. Our aim is purely and simply to detect the virus. So my recommendation, outside of being CEO of a company for detecting the virus, is that a CO2 detection system would be much better and much cheaper, probably about $50 or £50 to actually put into a room to detect the amount of air changes required. So not for us now.
Okay. And then Finn, optofluidic technology is very new for people, and a number of questions have come in relation to how it operates.
Okay. First of all, I'm not a scientist, but I've been working on this for about 6 years, so somebody should give me a PhD, even if it's from some online university. But back in 2015, we came up with the idea that you take a little glass microchip, the size of a SIM card in your phone, and you bore channels into that SIM card down to 10 microns in size, like 40, 50, 100 times thinner than the hair on your head, okay? You then take a sample of fluid and you push them through those channels. And because at the time, let's say E. coli is 4 more microns in size, it lines up as it goes through the channel. It has to line up, okay? And what you then do is you excite, you're constantly zapping a form of light. At the time we were using Raman spectroscopy, and that light is energy. So it was zapping the little chip, and if there was something in that chip, that would get excited as well because it was being hit by energy. And that excitement, that energy then throws off a spectral signal, which is unique to every living organism. And then the key was how do you identify that spectral signals? And it has to be with AI, okay? That's the basis for what we started with optofluidics. So it was a combination of glass microchips, photonics, and artificial intelligence. That was the core of the system. When it came to February or March, at the start of the pandemic last year, the challenge was, how do we capture something that was 0.12 to 0.15 microns in size, which is what coronavirus is. There's no way you could get a channel in a chip down that low. There's no way you could get them to line up. So we had to look at a different way. And it subsequently became, it wasn't the virus itself, it's the spike protein is the one that clings onto things. And that's 10 times smaller again. So, again, working with partners, we came up with the concept of a biological Velcro, right, that we designed, that only was designed specifically to capture the spike protein of coronavirus. Nothing else could attach to this Velcro. Okay, so it was from the start, it was 100% specific. Okay, and once you could capture it, then everything else thereafter was straightforward. So we changed the type of light medium that we used to and moved from exciting the particle to a signal shift type of messaging, and the AI, it just learned the new routines, the new models in a matter of hours. Okay, so we proved the science very, very quickly. We validated in labs and in universities that it was 100% specific, and the concentration levels we're getting down to, we're down at femtogram per milliliter levels. So we're capturing at the same levels now of a PCR test, and we can go below it in real time. Okay. Then that's the optofluidics piece. The other big challenge for us was the engineering piece. How do you get this shoebox sized piece of fairly complicated equipment, how do you get it into the field in a robust way that it can stand at the size of a river, or it can stand inside in a wastewater environment, in all sorts of weather, in all sorts of environments? So that's where the genius of our modern water colleagues came in. They took a kiosk, it's called the OVA, it's about the size of a small fridge. It's installed in thousands of sites around the world. It's robust, it's ruggedized, it can stand any kind of weather, and it's used to standing on side of a water system, taking samples, filtering those samples, generating data from those samples, pumping those samples, so that all that technology was in place. So we literally took our shoebox of crazy optofluidics at the time, and we retrofitted it in. That's the stuff that's on site generating data now, and it works. The next challenge for us is to take it, the optofluidics and the kiosk, and gel them into one unit that can be mass produced. And that's what we're doing at the moment.
Well, even I've learned something there, Finn. Thanks very much. Jared, a number of questions in relation to financials, forward-looking statements, different things we can and can't answer. Sure. One good one, a number of ones there is when obviously your interims, will Turner Pope be updating the financial projections? Are we likely to see another fundraiser, or what scenario would raise a fundraiser? So within the realms of what we can say, would you like to just give a picture of the next few months? Yeah.
I have spoken to the brokers, and I believe that they are currently working on a research note that is upgrading from the previous one, and that was actually produced in January of this year. I'm not sure when it's expected to be out, but I believe it's actually a matter of weeks rather than towards the end of the year. It's most certainly within this quarter. As far as funding is concerned, when we actually went to complete this placing, we went out to the market seeking £6.75 million. At 27.5p, we were offered £15 million, but we decided that we should keep it at 30p as a minimum, and therefore accepted the increased amount offered to us in order for us to do this, which has given us substantial resources now available to us to continue to roll out, which is, again, the basis of today's announcement. And for the present time, we do not anticipate a requirement to actually go back to the market for funding. Bear this in mind too, that our sole objective is actually to generate recurring revenue, is to generate and commercialize the technology that we have, and have been successful in actually doing that. And the use of mezzanine finance in the last year has proven that we are viable from a financial perspective. And if you're generating revenue consistently on a monthly basis, there is no reason why we can't make use of the financial market outside of an equity participation, should that actually be required. Because again, it's all purely down to ensuring that our growth is actually managed from a working capital perspective. And we believe at the moment we currently have the resources from an equity perspective and access to debt, should we actually need that at some point in the future.
That's fantastic. Jerry, thank you very much indeed. We are just approaching the hour, and obviously you have addressed a number of questions that we've had come through, and every time you address one, another one pops up. So the company will review all those questions submitted today, and we'll publish responses, as I said earlier, where appropriate to do so, and these will be available on the Investor Meet Company platform. Jerry, perhaps just before we redirect investors to give you some feedback, if I may just ask you for a few final closing words, please.
Yeah. This one is actually not necessarily just for shareholders. I mean, we really appreciate the support that we've actually had, and the support that we've actually had over the last 3 years since myself and Camillus actually stepped in to the company. Back then it was Integument. The support that we've had from the acquisitions and Finn coming in as our Chief of Operations, I couldn't one for a better Chief of Operations. We joke and laugh, etc., but it's a wonderful operations person. But most importantly, we had 5 employees when we took over in August 6th. This is now coming up to the anniversary of 3 years in the next week or so, next 2 weeks. And in that time, we've actually grown from 5 employees to 57. I think it's actually now over 60, and we're continuing to do that. And the level of quality of the people that are actually coming in are not just to manage what's actually growing. They are to build. I mean, for instance, being successful in actually bringing Niamh O'Kennedy over as a former director of Ogilvy to manage the global brand growth of Skin Trust Club. It is not something that is actually thought in small terms. We are actually looking at this from a global perspective. And it's that level of expertise. Below Finn, you've actually got a number of general managers managing those divisions. Below them, you've actually got passionate individuals that are obsessed with making this work. So you've actually got people who, again, I just in awe most of the time when I actually look at what we've actually achieved over the last 3 years, and still so excited about what it is that we're actually rolling out this year in the next 12 months, 24 months, and what's to come. So thank you all from an employee, staff, team member perspective, but also the team members that are actually also supportive from the shareholder base. And we welcome you to the future.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Jerry, for wrapping up there. I'd like to say a big thank you to the Deepverge team for updating attendees today. Could I please ask attendees not to end the session? It should be automatically redirected for the opportunity to provide your feedback in order that the management team can better understand your views and expectations. This will only take a few moments for you to complete and is greatly valued by the company. On behalf of the management team of Deepverge Plc, we'd like to thank you for attending today's AGM presentation. That concludes today's session. Thank you and good afternoon.